Okay, today is December 2nd, 2019, Jalen, and we're working on a reachback of 9 questions. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go through the answers to these 9 questions from grade 7 and grade 8. None of the questions that are on this 9-question quiz are things you have not seen before. 5 of them you saw this year, 4 of them you saw last year. Let's go through the questions one at a time. So the first question gives you a triangle and asks for its area and perimeter. The area of a triangle you used last year you learned was base times height divided by 2, or sometimes you showed it like this in brackets like this, but both mean the same thing. The base is 8, the height is 10, 80 divided by 2 is 40, and therefore the area is 40 square meters. Perimeter is just the distance around the entire object, so if I was to ask you what is the perimeter, you don't need a formula. You just need to add up 10 plus 12 plus 8, which is 30. And to show me that you knew what you were talking about, the units you would use for perimeter are just meters. Not meters squared, but meters. Your second question gives you a circle and asks you for the area and the perimeter. Last year you would have learned that the area formula is pi r squared, but you probably learned it as pi times r times r, or r times pi. But now that we know that numbers next to variables and all that kind of stuff means multiplication. So pi we are going to define as being 3. So 3 multiplied by the radius squared. You have to use your radius times radius first, so it's 3 times 100, or do your exponents first. And your answer is the area is 300 square meters. Perimeter is the same thing as circumference, and circumference is pi times diameter. So the perimeter will be pi times diameter, or 3 multiplied by the diameter. If the radius is 10, then the diameter is twice that. So therefore the distance around the circle will be 60 meters, not square meters. Your third question is a fraction question from grade 8. It says 2 3/5, take away the product of 1/2 times 3/4. Obviously, we're not going to do subtraction first. We're going to do our multiplication first. So I'm going to do this first. So while I'm doing that, I'm just going to rewrite 2 3/5 as an improper fraction to start. Take away the product will be 3 over 8. Because 1 over 2 times 3 over 4 is 3/8. Oh, I made a mistake. It's 13/5. Thank you very much. See, I made my first mistake of my life. 13/5, take away 3/8. Common denominator is 40. Equivalent fraction, since we're subtracting, will be 80 and 24, which is 104. Multiply both by 5. I'll get 15. Keep your denominator and subtract your numerators. 104 take away 15 is 94/89. 89/40ths is 2. And 9/40ths, that's your final answer. Next question gives you 2 spinners, a spinner that has a 1 and a 2 on it, and a second spinner which has a 1, 1, and a 2 on it, and says, what is the probability of spinning a 1 on the first and a 1 on the second? So you could do a tree diagram if you wanted, but obviously we know a table from our experiences in grade 7 works better. So here we know that there are now, if I look at my table, there are 6 possible combinations: a 1, 1, a 1, 2, a 1, 1, a 1, 2, a 2, 1, and a 2, 2. So of the 6 possible combinations, which is our possible, we have 6 possibles, and of those, 2 of them are 1, 1. So our favorable, we call them. So we have 2 out of 6 is our probability, or in lowest terms, 1 out of 3 is the probability of spinning a 1 and a 1. 1 chance out of 3. Our next question, which is going to be what we do next, is our linear relations, so graphing and solving linear relations. So here we have an x is 1, a y is 12. So if I was to graph this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Somewhere like that. A 112 would be somewhere like this. A 215 would be here. And a 318 would be roughly here. And if we connect the dots, it forms a line. We learned that last year in grade 7 math. But if I was to continue this all the way to 100, where would the y be to connect to that? And what we learned is we could find an equation here. And the equation here, it goes up by 3 here. And it goes up by 1 here. So we now know that in my equation that shows the relationship between x and y, the coefficient of x is going to be 3. Then what you learn to do is you take one of the ordered pairs, you substituted it in, so x is 1, y is 12, you put them in there, and you ask yourself, if I simplified this right now, would both sides be equal? 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 does not equal 12. So I had to add a 9 here to keep them balanced, because now 3 times 1 is 3, plus 9 is 12. And if I substituted any ordered pair, it would work out the same way. So our equation is this. And therefore, if I substitute 100 into my equation, my y value would be 309. So the answer, the missing value of the table would be x would be 309. In the next question, this is an integer question. It says -5 plus -4 times -3 times -2. All of that divided by -1. So I'm going to work up backwards. So -5 plus -4 times -3 is positive 12 times -2. -5 plus positive 12 times -2 is -24. And -4, 24, and -5 makes -29. So when I solve the top part, I get -29 divided by -1. Well, 29 divided by 1 is 29, and a negative divided by negative is a positive. So your answer for that one is positive 29. Your next question is your algebra. It says 5 take away 2x equals 8. Get rid of your constant of positive 5 first by subtracting 5 from both sides. Now on your test, I hope no one made this mistake of not writing negative 2x. But negative 2x equals negative 13. And of course you divide both sides by the coefficient, which is -2. And x will equal a positive 6.5. A negative 13 divided by a -2 is 6.5. Next question is distributive property. There's 2 ways to solve it. First way you can do is expand using distributive property. -2 times x is -2x. And a -2 times a -1 is a positive 2. So when you expand it, you get a 2-step equation. And now we know what to do. Subtract 2 from both sides. Divide both sides by the coefficient. And x will equal a positive 3. That's one way to solve it. The easier way to solve it, we learned, was to divide, instead of having -2 groups of x plus 1, if you divide both sides by -2, you get one group of x minus 1 equals 2. Add 1 to both sides, and x still equals 3. Just enough time to do the last question. Constant is -3, so you're going to add 3 to both sides. A -half of x is equal to -5. Multiply both sides by -2. And x will equal 10.